things have been happening in the world of politics, both international, both um, internal in terms of Canada, internal in terms of the US, and the wars in terms of Ukraine and Russia, Israel and Gaza. And there's also like the political discord. It keeps going, and it keeps getting nastier and nastier. So we're gonna talk about all that and what are the factors that are driving these things, and how can we provide a framework in which we can use to understand things objectively, right? Because right now everybody's hot, everybody's heated, they're looking for some type of, everybody's just letting it out, in the comments, everywhere, and on all types of social media. So everybody feels freer than ever to let people know of their opinion regarding every type of issue, and it's always a heated, passionate opinion, qualified with some strong, nasty words with it, So, but beside the point, like what we're gonna talk about today is how the international world order is shifting. We're going from the neoliberal international order to the jungle order, meaning that everybody for themselves, the strongest wins, And I'll explain to you how we got here, and what are the driving forces of all these things that are happening currently in our world, in the world politics. You feel me? So yeah, from my perspective as a political junkie, I do see that there's a shift happening in the world of politics, and in terms of the relationships the dynamic of the relationships that individual countries have with each other, whether it's allies, whether it's enemies, whether it's anything, friends or foes, it's going down. So we're gonna start with because as we know, the United States they have not only dominated the world of international politics, but they have they are the ones that established the current slash former international order, right? They established like institutions like the UN after World War II, in order to kind of like provide a stage where countries can deliberate, excuse me, and conversate in order to resolve issues and also tackle worldwide conflicts that are going on in every part of the world, right? So they created institutions like the UN for in terms of like conflicts and all that. They created the WTO for the economic order in terms of resolving economic issues, trade issues, and really creating a free market in the world where every country collaborates and cooperates in order to create a positive economic value for their countries, right? So now, these are the two reasons that I believe that the current world order, which I refer to as the former because I believe that we're going away from it, which is the neoliberal world order, has been is dying, right? It's gone. Like we're going into the new world order, which I refer to as the jungle order, meaning that the strong survive. The advantage of the strong is what this current is basically the core of this current world order, right? And two reasons why we are here where we are today. Number one reason is social media, right? Because social media is creating a lot. It's really fracturing us, right? And if you think about it, most times it's fracturing us based on single issues, right? Not even like oh, it's not like we're so different in a variety, wide ranging, different type of issues. We're just being fractured by single issues, which is the whole, and the whole reason for that is social media, right? We see, we have like we kind of get to see these clipped up videos showing one side of the story all the time, and people react, right? We've become a reactive type of society, instead of like trying to take our time trying to getting the bottom of the getting to the truth, basically, and the whole truth, right? We get clipped up videos of in terms of like every issue, like, in the political spectrum, right? We get like a clipped up video of a leader of a specific party, or an influential leader saying one thing, and we basically use that little 2 minutes of whatever they said, whether it's wrong or right. We use that 2 minutes and we associate things like stereotypes, everything we think that are bad, or everything that's against our values, we associate to that person based on that 2 minutes video, right? And people in the comments, you see people saying whatever they want. It's free for all. Like, you suddenly see the rise of anti-immigrant feelings. And I'm not talking about the typical, like, the I'm not talking about rational, strong immigration laws, right? Being anti that. I'm talking about being anti the idea of immigration, right? This is where we're getting to, right? And so basically, what I would surmise with my point is, there are two reasons why we're here, and the first one, as I just explained, is social media. The second one is Donald Trump, the leader of the free world, right? So right now, I feel like the political climate is resembling, right, the personality of Donald Trump, meaning blunt, mean, nasty, say whatever you comes to your mind, reactive, everything that can be associated with the personality of Donald Trump is actually the same thing, the same characteristics that we see in our political climate as of today, right? So we see a lot of divisive rhetoric all the time, right? We used to see it more on Twitter, right? Now we see it on Instagram, we see it on Facebook, we see it on Snapchat, we see it. We used to only see it in the political realm. Now we see it in sports. Now we see it in every part of our society, right? We see that, and now, basically, the point is, all that emanates from who? From how Donald Trump rose to power in the last 10 years, right? He burst in the bubble and he went ham from the beginning. He said what he thought, whether it's right, whether it's wrong, whether it's Islamophobic, anti-immigrant, anti-Muslim, a little bit, tends to be a little bit racist, or, from if you like to take that perspective too, so all those things that we see in Donald Trump, we're currently seeing in our political discord, right? And that's what's causing everybody to be heated, like the temperature of everybody. Like, you see a lot of anger, a lot of divisiveness, and it's in my perspective, this is both good and bad, right? Good because we're having honest conversations, right? We're having more honest conversations. We're no longer having filtered conversations, right? Pushed and forced onto us by different structures that the liberal order built into the basically the town square, right? Because it used to be that our language was policed. We had to say certain things certain way because we don't want to offend this and that. We have to be conscious about how other people feel. Nah, bro. This climate, fuck that. You know, we're having real conversations, right? We're getting to the roots of how we feel. You know, we're not going to solve these issues because these issues are very, very, very deep, right? They're very, very deep and divisive. But the best solutions come from having honest conversations. And my friends, what I can tell you is right now we're having very, 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 very honest conversations, right? And this is not the time to be what's it called? This is not the time to be soft, right? This is not the time to be in your feelings, right? Everybody is telling you what they really, really believe in the core of their soul, right? And this is good. It allows us to identify in which ways we differ. And then once we are able to identify that, we can get to the solutions faster, whether the solutions are positive or whether the solutions have negative consequences, right? We at least this, like, it's almost like it's putting sunlight over, over the political correctness, is taking it out, which is, everybody has been tired of that bullshit. You want to get to the truth, so we get to see how people feel, so we get to see, and from that we can come up with a solution to tackle every issue from different perspectives, right? So yeah, this is the positive thing about the current climate. The negative thing about the current climate is it pushes a lot of division, which can cause a lot of people that can't handle what they're hearing to resort to violent ways, right? Because they wanna. It's like the Charlie Kirk thing, right? Charlie Kirk, he was very controversial. He said a lot of things I didn't agree with. He said a lot of things I kind of agreed with. And what happened to him? My man got shot, and it wasn't right. He was a young man with a young family. I'm talking about from a human perspective. I'm not talking about from a political perspective, first of all, because politically you have a lot to criticize this guy for. But humanly, he was just a young man that felt strongly about whatever politics and beliefs that he had, and he made it a mission to kind of go and talk to people and try to persuade people and try to debate people in order to prove them wrong in some ways, and other ways maybe he gets proven wrong, right? So that's what he was about. But anyways, what I'm saying at the core of this thing is it could be both really bad. We can come to the edge of the abyss with this type of in this type of political climate, but we can also use it as a tool to really get to long lasting solutions about the core conflicts that we have amongst each other today in the world, as in the most global way possible, right? So, and that's that. So this is not the time to be sensitive. This is not the time to be in your feelings. Oh, this guy said this about Muslims. This guy said this about Christians. This guy said this about Jews. Nah, it's not the time. This is the time that we really face our conflicts. We really face our problems, right? This is the time you open your eyes and look and firmly look at the deepest fears that you have in terms of facing them, right? So this is a good opportunity for us. Now, how is that impacting our the current conflicts we have in the world and the current the current problems, right? The wars, the geopolitical strategic movements that we're seeing. So basically, finally, we're getting to the point where nation states are actually moving according to what is best for them, right? They're creating relationships, they're allying not based on a set of values that are imposed upon them by liberals, You know, we are tired of that. Nobody wants to be imposed upon their values. They want to, their values come organically. Their values come from their identity. Their values come from how they grew up, from their family. You know, these are things we cannot be imposed upon. You know, these are things we hold dear. You know, we want to protect, we want to conserve, and we want to also promote, right? So, you know, this is the good thing about this liberal order being on its way to, you know, dying. You know, let's be honest. You know, the bad thing is people are very reactive. You know, one little signal can send one country to do irreversible damage on the world, right? So everybody's on edge. Everybody's on edge. Like, you can feel it. You just feel it, man. You know, you're not a world leader. You're not in these rooms. You're not doing these things, but you can just feel it. The vibe. You know, your gut is never wrong, right? So yeah, and it's both a scary time, an exciting time, and an opportunity. That's what I see, in my opinion, right? And you know, you may not really agree with the approach of the current U.S. president, the leader of the free world, but what you can respect about this guy is he talks to anybody. He's willing to make any deal, and he's very, 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 he's very transparent. Not in the not because he doesn't lie, not because he's not flawed, not because he doesn't make the wrong decisions. He's very transparent because we, on a daily basis, on an everyday news cycle basis, we know what this guy thinks, right? And that allows us to get a sense of where we're heading, which directions these decisions are going, right? And that's another reason why he's able to be as successful as he's been in implementing his agenda, right? Because people they don't respond to bullshit, political correctness, fake niceties, you know, like conversations with no substance amongst world leaders, almost like ceremonial conversations, right? It's a zero-sum game in today's world, right? That's how Donald Trump sees it, and people are reacting to it, and people are looking at it like that. So you see world leaders either coming, the world leaders that are seeing how this is manifesting and are accepting the conditions in which they live in. They are moving in the proper way that allows them to get along with the U.S. leadership, right? And there are people associated with, oh, this person talks like this, oh, he's too mean, or he's too direct, or he doesn't give a fuck about this group or that group or this group. Nah, right? Those people, you see them, they're losing, they're taking L's, right? Because, man, when you're confronted with bluntness, when you're confronted with the truth about how someone feels, it's no longer about you fighting against how they feel. It's about taking that information and seeing how best you can use it to your advantage, right? This is the laws of the jungle, and this is what Donald Trump is instituting on the world stage, and it's crazy to watch. You know, it's scary, exciting, and obviously there's a lot of ways you can say it's wrong too, you know. But anyways, so that's what's happening on the world stage in terms of the international order, and where it's going from where it came from, you know. So now we're gonna speak about what emanates, right, from these conditions, these political conditions that we live in, like the type of discourse we're having, right? Because now when the conversations become too passionate, they go from passion and getting to the root of the truth of where people are, to hatred, right? Because now everybody is obsessed on defending and promoting and preserving the way they see the world, right? Because now to them it becomes a matter of, because this person is on the opposite side of me on this issue, he's my enemy. And that's what I'm seeing online everywhere, right? So now from now on, you start believing it, and then you start seeing clipped up videos, out of context videos on social media about the opposition, and how they feel. You immediately start feeling feelings of hatred, and that's where we get to a dangerous territory, right? We get to a dangerous territory. For example, as a Muslim, I'm seeing what's going on with the anti-Muslim, the rise of anti-Muslim feelings in the West, right? The attempt to blame the failures of liberalism on Muslims, right? And let me tell you why this is happening. This is happening for one reason and one reason only, right? The West as a whole, right? Western democracies, liberal democracies, emanating from the West, what happened to them is they became too secular, right? And when you become too secular, you got people thinking they're God, right? Because the Western liberalist people, they're no longer associating themselves, they're no longer submitting themselves to God as they did before, right? Remember, most of these Western world populations, they were Christians, right? Most of them, right? So there was something that binded them above political perspectives and political views and opinions, right? And parties, political parties, and all that. They had values of family. They had values of all the values that emanates from believing in God and being Christian, right? The so-called Christian values that most of them don't practice anymore, right? Because they let it get away from them, right? The influence of Christianism in the West, the erosion of the influence of Christianism in the West is why there's a rise in Muslim hatred, right? Because Westerners see their religion eroding, their beliefs eroding in every institution in their societies, right? And suddenly they see these immigrants coming into their countries that have strong beliefs, that practice their religion faithfully and strongly and openly and proudly, right? What happens when that happens? They get threatened, right? Because why they get threatened? Because they don't have what that person has, right? It's not the fact that the person is wearing a hijab. No, it's not the fact that that person is openly practicing their religion. It's not the fact that these people are praying in streets because they don't want to miss their prayer times. It's not that. It's because their own people is not doing the same, right? So it's an insecurity, right? We are like a mirror to them, right? We put the mirror up, they see themselves, right? And they don't like what they see. So they drive that insecurity towards hate, and it comes out against Muslims, right? So these are things that we need to watch out for, right? Because we can always agree to disagree, right? One thing about me as a Muslim man, I always said that I respect all faiths. The only people I tend to strongly disagree with is the non-believers, the people that don't believe in anything, right? The people that chose to be, atheists. Those are the main problems. Not the main problems, but those are the people that I consider myself to be the complete opposite of. Not my dear Christian brothers and sisters, not my dear Jewish brothers and sisters, although that's a very sensitive subject in light of the Israel and Gaza situation. But we also have to acknowledge something, right? This nature of Donald Trump, the way he does business, the way he sees the world, allowed us today to be where we're at in terms of the Gaza-Israel peace plan that has been signed although without not without its problems, still the ceasefire is holding, right? Although Israel is still bombing people, they're not killing as many as they were killing before the ceasefire, right? So, and why did that happen? That happened because Donald Trump is the first US president that doesn't have undying loyalties, right? Meaning that he's not loyal to one side or the other indefinitely. He's able to bob and weave, right? Based on the current conditions of the ground, right? He's friends with the Qataris, with the Muslim, with the Arab countries. He has business relationships, and with the Israel countries, he has historical relations in terms of he has a certain obligation by them based on the allyship, the nature of the allyship between the U.S. and Israel, right? The historical nature of it, the heritage of this relationship, also plays a heavy role in making him be on Israel's side. But because he's able to cultivate and he's able to bob and weave depending on the conditions of the ground, he's able to recognize that Israel's campaign on Gaza and the and the killing of innocents have completely turned the world on against Israel, and he's able to open his eyes and see that. So because he's able to see that, because he's able to weave and bob, he's able to recognize that I have to recognize the other side perspective. Otherwise, I'm going down with the Israel perspective in the mind of others, in the mind of the world, right? So he's able to kind of switch a little bit, right? So he if you look at his behaviors from the beginning of his term in January to now, in the Israel and Gaza issue, you're gonna see how much of a realist Donald Trump is, and how much that realism has allowed him to change, basically to change his approach towards the Israel and Gaza issue, right? Because if you see it now, he's able to get together with the Arab world. He's able to give them security guarantees in terms of the Palestinian people, which he wasn't even doing in the beginning, because in the beginning he was talking about taking over Gaza and building a Riviera, and he was undyingly supporting Israel in their campaign against Gazans, right? So you see that because he's a realist transactionalist, he's able to switch positions, he's able to move and weave, and because of that, he's able to solve issues, right? This is how we got to the peace deal, right? Because he did not look at God. He's not an idealist, right? He did not look at Muslims as people I cannot do business with because of their beliefs, because of their way of life. You know, he looked at what the Arab countries can provide him in terms of investments, in terms of business opportunities, not only for his country, maybe for his own personal wealth too, but that's something we can discuss later. And he's able to establish those relationships with them, and because of those business relationships, he's able to take in what they have to think or what they have to say in these matters. And because he's able to take in what they have to say in these matters, he's able to recognize that he cannot take over Gaza. He cannot allow Israel and facilitate for Israel to implement their Greater Israel project, which is taking over Gaza and the West Bank and some parts of Syria, right? So this is a very interesting situation, and people that hate Donald Trump, they're not able to see that, right? They're only able to see him on an ideological perspective, right? Rather than seeing them through realism, right? Seeing the conditions on the ground and understanding why he's switching, he's bobbing and weaving, right? This is not in defense of him, but this is in appreciation of his approach, right? Because this issue has been bubbling for decades and decades, and he's the first person that was able to get a ceasefire between Hamas and Israel. Remind you, not a non-threatening Palestinian government. Hamas the terrorists, right? And Israel. He was able, he was even able to speak directly to Hamas instead of going through intermediaries, like usually how the U.S. presidents prior to him approached it, right? So this realism is much needed. We have to be able to learn how to appreciate the good, even though we recognize the bad, right? That's how we have to do. That's what we have to do, you know. We cannot always think on an ideological line. We cannot always see things through ideological perspective. We have to see we have to recognize the facts as they are and make adjustments based on what they are, you know. So that's regarding the Gaza and Israel thing. Now, one thing that we're seeing also in Ukraine is not the usual American approach that always screams support for Ukraine no matter what and all that. You know, we're seeing a realistic perspective where you look at the strength of Russia in terms of their positioning, in terms of them having a stronger and bigger army, being a stronger and bigger country versus Ukraine's position. And he's recognizing that he cannot bankroll Ukraine forever in a war that has nothing to do with his country, that is far, far away from his country, right? That approach has to be respected regardless of what you think of Donald Trump or the decisions he makes, right? So we can see through that approach, we can see the global order shifting, right? People are able to now recognize that it's no longer about these institutions that was never able to get anything done, right? Just because of the bureaucracy, the political correctness, the sensitivities, the attempts at making everybody happy at once, you know, instead of this approach, which is a more realistic approach, and which is a more an approach that is much more based on individual relationships, right? Because today what we're seeing is Donald Trump, he's allies with a country if he likes their leader, and he's enemies with a country if he dislikes their leader, right? So if we know that as a Canadian, how is my country not able to get a deal with this guy since he became president? How is my country managing to keeping getting more and more tariffed as time goes on, right? Because they haven't adjusted yet. They don't understand that, right? They see it from the perspective, oh, we're neighbors. We've been always neighbors. We've been looking out for each other. You know, we have a relationship that goes beyond any other relationship that the U.S. and other countries have. You know, they're not even able to adjust yet. They're not even able to adapt to this guy yet. You know, which is why they will continue to F up, right? Especially from the perspective of the ideologically driven liberals, right? So that's what I have to talk to you about today. I'm happy. I hope you guys stuck with me throughout the video. You know, I ranted a lot, but these are my ideas, and these are the points that I wanted to hit today. Please subscribe and follow our channel. We're trying to grow. We're trying to give this perspective from a brand new position.